Hi, we're Shannon and Jerry Arner.
And our dog, Betty White.
Your hosts of the Arner Adventures podcast.
Could we have named it something more creative? Probably. But it's the name of our blog. It's our last name. We're on an adventure. Yada, yada, yada. After owning our own business, working 24/7.
And don't forget a mental breakdown in between.
We made a lifestyle change and decided to make the most out of life.
We sold our house, most of our belongings, downsized, and moved to the coast.
We live life minimally, but fully.
We live each day as an adventure.
This show will help you learn how to live life more fully, with more intention, by experiencing more, and with less stuff.
We'll talk about our own experiences, interview others who have much to share by creating a spark in our lives.
Some days we'll share real-life ongoings of what we're going through, and others will talk about our favorite flavor of waffle.
Come join our adventure.
It's the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Jerry.
Betty White is snuggled here with us, and we are back for episode 37 of the Arner Adventures Podcast.
Today we have a Spark in Our Lives episode who is just a gem, someone whose story is just so heartwarming, and we know this is going to resonate with so many of you. But before we get to him, let's get to our review of the week.
Today's review comes from Addie Fine. Addie says, "This podcast is fun and brings meaning. That's what life is all about. Each episode is worth my time, whether it be useful information about how to experience life to the fullest or listening to their guests' interesting stories about how they have gone after their own fulfilling life. Each episode makes me want to have my own new adventures, and that is worth listening to."
Oh, wow. That's such a nice sentiment there, Addie. That is really sweet.
That is. It's just the kindest, and the fact that we're worth listening to is always a good thing. And I couldn't agree more that our guest episodes are really my favorite.
Oh, yeah, indeed. And if you all would like to go warm our hearts like Addie did, and why wouldn't you folks, please head over to lovethepodcast.com/Arner Adventures and give us a 5-star review or rating. It means so much and helps serves us up to other people who may be interested in content like ours. So we really appreciate it.
We really do. And today's episode is really special for a plethora of reasons. First, our guest is just the nicest guy. You're going to absolutely love him. His name is Tom Rose. Our episode is about grief, but before you say, "Oh goodness, this is going to be a downer," it's not. You know, Arner Adventures really started, of course, because of our downsizing journey, but that journey started because of our burnout and grief and what we were going through. And one day we'll go into that deeper, but this was just so special. Tom's story is special, and I think it's just one of the most treasured conversations on the podcast.
Well, let's go ahead and get to the conversation with Tom.
Yep, let's just go ahead and get to it. Well, guys, this show is so special, and I know that we talked a little bit about our guest, but I just want to give him an official welcome. So our guest today is Tom Rose, and Tom is an author, public speaker, advocate, and cook. Tom and his wife, Joyce, co-authored 2 books, Cooking Together Chinese Style and Cooking Together Quick and Easy. They also hosted a cooking segment on their local Fox TV affiliate for 13 years. When his wife, Joyce, passed away from breast cancer in August of 2019, he began writing his story of his grief journey. And that story became his most recent book, Balloon in a Box, a book for anyone who is grieving. It's not only just a beautiful book about love, but it's also a book following Tom through his journey of grief as he and others share memories, good and bad. Their experiences are going to help you cope with your own grief. And you can learn how to control the balloon in your box, which he's going to tell us about, and move forward in life with your loved one, not without them. So, Tom, I am so honored that you're here. I know I've told you how much this means to me off of the show, how special this is about, grief and coping with grief and what it means to Arner Adventures. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I loved the book. It's so heartwarming, and I know we're going to talk about it and what a great not only resource it is, but it's just a really great story. So are you in Indiana right now?
Yes. Goshen, Indiana. It's looking out the window. It's 74 degrees, blue sky, and little puffy white clouds going by. So little breeze. So just a beautiful day.
It's very similar in North Carolina right now. We actually got a break in the heat. So it's been in the 90s. So
yes, that's great with us too. So
yeah. Yeah.
This is great to have it this way.
Yeah. So have you lived in Indiana your whole life? Is that where you're from?
Yes, I was born in Peru, Indiana, which is a little south of here. Moved here when I was in the 7th grade. Been in Goshen my whole life. So
You and I have spoken about this a little bit, and our audience knows, well, a lot of our audience knows and may not know that Arner Adventures, our blog, our whole journey was started because of grief. In the span of, a couple of years, we had a lot of losses. For me, I lost my dog, Pharrell, and he was, my child. Of course, it was devastating, and I didn't feel as though I had a lot of people who supported me. I didn't feel like anyone understood. When you go through any loss, pet, parent, spouse, anyone,
job.
job, yeah, anything, anyone, it's very lonely. And I think what I hear most common is from anyone is that people always say, how is it that I'm going through this and the world just continues to go on? Like they don't understand. And I'm like, yeah, I completely get that part of it. And so outside of that, I just remember feeling like I couldn't share because I felt like no one understood. And I was in this bubble. And so I started blogging and started writing about it. So I completely get the part about you starting to write. So I was wondering if you could, give us a little bit of background about the start of the book, if you don't mind sharing that part.
No. Well, first of all, my wife, we did the cooking thing for 13 years, which was great to do that kind of a thing together.
Yeah.
She was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2004, had a mastectomy again in 2005, and had a mastectomy. That's when we stopped doing the TV. And then she was great. Everything was good until 2017, and the cancer came back in the chest wall. They told her she had 4 to 6 months. Well, being a strong person and not ready to give up, she lived 2 years. I think my grief probably my grief started when the doctor said you've got 4 to 6 months. And so people have said to me, well, make it a little easier, like you knew that this was going to happen. And no, it doesn't. I mean, you knew, we knew the inevitable was going to happen. But when it happened, it was devastating to me. I tell people, it's like people say, well, how do you feel? And I said, well, I'll tell you what, you lay there on the floor and let me kick you in the chest, right in the middle of the chest. And that's the way it feels. There is truly heartache because that's what you feel. It's different for everyone. I understand that, and I think I said that in the book. It's different for everyone. There's some things that are the same and some things are different. But what people coming to the funeral home and saying some things they say to you a little bit, but I don't say to somebody, I understand anymore.
Right.
I understand because I've been there. That's the thing I tell people. Don't say you understand if you haven't been there, because you don't. I thought I did. I thought I understood. I didn't understand. I learned something, and you're doing it. Someone said there are 3 things a griever needs. That's number 1, to find the words, to say the words aloud, which I'm doing, and know that they're hurt. If somebody's grieving, don't try to fix it. You can't fix it. Just listen. That's all they want. They just need someone to listen to what they have to say. Let them let it all out. Let them cry. Let them laugh. Let them do whatever. Just let them do it. Families sometimes create problems when a family loss, like my spouse. My family was great. They didn't push me one way or the other. They listened to me. They loved me. They looked over me, but they didn't push me to do things. They didn't criticize. They didn't say, oh, don't do that, or you got to do this. They let me live my life, and they let me find my own way through it, which is what you have to do. So,
right.
My thing started with the book. A friend called me and said, how you doing? And I said, he said, well, somebody told me if you write a journal, it helps. So I get up every morning because of our business, sat down with the computer. So I just opened up a file and started typing sentences and paragraphs, how I felt. He did the same thing in the evening when I went to bed. He called me again. He's a doctor in Florida. He called and said, how you doing with the journal? And I said, oh, I think I got a whole bunch of stuff, He said, send it to me. I said, well, it's just not even sentences. He said, send it to me. So I sent it to him. And he called me back right away, and he said, I just talked to my son who has taken over his practice. And he said, we would like you to write a paper on your thoughts about losing a spouse and grieving, so we can give it to our patients. I said, oh, I can do that. So I did it, sent it to him. He called me back, says, you got to write a book. So I wrote a book. And I'm totally shocked and surprised about all the things that have happened with it. But that was it.
It was in your head that it's a book. Did you find it to be more pressure, or was it still like, okay, yeah, I'm still getting my thoughts out? Did you still treat it the same way?
I think so. The interesting thing to me was I've never been a writer. Oh, we did the cookbooks, but cookbooks are easy. You take the recipe, you say, we're going to put it in, we're not going to put it in, put a little something around it,
Yeah.
But once I started, I did a little outline. I went to parochial school, and you learn to diagram sentences and do outlines. That's the biggest thing you can learn how to do. Roman numeral #1, capital A, little. So I kind of did an outline of where I wanted to go, with it, and that was pretty much it. I just tried to stick within that outline. Once I started my fingers going, it kind of flowed. I didn't have too many blocks. I had to go back and change things. I wrote things and went back and changed them, but it seemed like I'd do it at night basically, and I'd have to stop myself at midnight or 12:30 and say, go to bed because you're not going to be worth anything tomorrow. But I could have kept going. Once I started, I could have just kept going. So.
We wanted to take a pause for a second to tell you once again about how much we love Sugar Wish.
If you're a regular listener, Sugar Wish isn't new to you. You already know how much we adore the fact that we count on Sugar Wish to send gifts to people. Why? Because it's easy.
Yes.
It's a time saver.
Yes.
You know the recipient is going to love it because they choose what they want.
That's right.
And it's not a gift that's going to take up space because it's edible.
Yes.
What's not to love?
You forgot something.
What's that?
You save money because we have a code to share with our listeners.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Use code Betty White, that's all caps, one word, Betty White, to save $7 off your gift to someone. We also have the link in the show notes.
Yep, whether you're gifting someone candy, snacks, tea, coffee, wine, or some dog treats to one lucky pup, that code works to save. Sugar Wish always saves the day. Right. I know I mentioned that it's a resource, and I use that because, and I know you and I have talked about this, that when I was grieving, I just remember just trying to seek, and I don't know if I'm using the word correctly. I just wanted a fit. I was like, I need a Band-Aid. I need some kind of a resource that's going to give me answers. I want something that's going to make me feel better. And I just remember looking for self-help books. I remember looking for anything I could read and get my hands on that was going to make me feel better. And anything I read was so clinical and so just high level, did not make me feel better on any emotional level. It just made me feel like this person does not get this. This person has definitely not been through what I've been through.
I call it college professorish. Okay. The college professor stood way above you and he looked down at you and he knew everything and you knew nothing. And he was going to tell you. That was what I got. The same thing, the clinical. And you knew by reading some of the stuff that number one, the first one said, well, you'll get over it. It'll take a long time. You're never going to get over it. I've talked to people to do the book 25, 30 years. A gal the other day said, it's been 30 years. And, once a week, she said, I cry. I have a little tear come down. I think of something happens. So, it doesn't go away. It just changes.
Right.
And you have to learn to, I was afraid to move forward because I thought if I moved forward, that meant I lost her.
Mm-hmm.
So what I had to learn to do was move forward and take her with me. Take those memories and all those things with me into, I've talked to several people. Well, number one, I lost a spouse, and that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. I've talked to a lot of people that lost spouses, and it's rough. It's a rough go. I cannot, and I can understand somebody losing a spouse. I can understand how they feel. I cannot understand how somebody who has lost a child feels. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that would be like, especially a young child. I got a lady told me this story about losing a child in a fire, standing in the front yard watching a house burn down with a child. That's beyond me to try. I could not tell that lady, hey, I understand, because I do not understand that.
Right.
So, and that's what, going through like I say, just learning then to say, okay, I can move forward with her, not without her.
Right.
I could have a new life. I mean, it has to be a new life because we're talking, well, we would have been married 60 years last week. After 60 years, of your life has been, so it's going to be a new life
Right.
when you go forward. And surprising to me, and my son can probably, he's back there, he can probably confirm this. I changed. I'm not the same person I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Better or worse, I don't know. I'm just different. I say that.
Yeah.
I'm probably better because I understand. I feel a little more than I ever did.
Yeah.
I'm not as selfish. Everybody's selfish. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying I'm not, I think more about people. I've learned more about people by maybe listening a little more than just going way out and moving. So those are the kind of changes I think I went through. And it's from the loss, and it's from the grief, and it's from having to learn to move on.
Yeah. And you talk about that in the book a lot. I can't remember exactly the way you describe it, but you said that God broke your heart to
Bishop Sheen said that sometimes God has to break your heart to get into your heart.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. I think that's the truth. I think that's true. He broke my heart. And I was born and raised a Catholic. I went to parochial school. I was an altar boy. I did all the Catholic things, and I was still a Catholic, and I was a okay Catholic. My wife was a convert. She was so much better Catholic than I was. But I think when I lost her, I kind of found some of that Catholicism, some of that religion, some of that Christianity that I didn't lose it. I just put it back in the background someplace and wasn't living it anymore. There were too many other things going on that I couldn't bring that forward and live it. So I think, I'm a better Christian, a better Catholic now than I was 4 years ago again.
When Joyce passed away, did you, and I'm asking this from actually, this wasn't even planned. I'm just sitting here thinking about it myself. Were you angry at God? Did you question God? Did you go through that? Or did you just automatically get closer to God?
No, yes and no. A lot of those clinical people give you a list of all the things you're going to go through with grief.
Yeah.
And you do, but you don't go through them necessarily in the order they give them to you.
Yeah.
It was probably a couple of months later. You're looking in my bedroom behind me, okay? My office is now in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I got up one morning and I was angry. I was so angry. And there's a big chair right outside this door over here. And I walked out and I kicked it. And I yelled at God and I yelled at Joyce.
Yeah.
Why, God, did you take her, Joyce? Why did you leave me?
Yeah.
And then the rest of the day I went about thinking, Tom, you yelled at Joyce. You yelled at God. Joyce is a preacher. And you yelled at God. And so then that night, I sat there on the edge of the bed going, hey, guys, hey, God, hey, Joyce, I didn't mean it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But then for 3 days, my leg hurt where I kicked the chair to remind me that I got angry. You go through all those things. I think the thing that I avoided that some people, I don't think I got to depression. I don't think I got that far. I think I was able to grab a hold of myself before that. And I think that's important for people who are grieving to be careful.
Yeah.
Grab a hold of themselves before they get that. Because once they get depression, then it's really tough. Then they need that outside help. And then they need the doctors. And then they need all the people that try to help them fix it. So I think that's a danger. I can see how it can happen. There are so many things going on that, it's just, it becomes confusing for you. You're lonely, you're angry.
Yeah. You bring up a good topic. Your book, I feel like I say this about so many things in life, especially when I meet people. I always say, oh, I wish I would have met you back then, or I wish I would have known about your book then, or whatever. In your book, I wish I would have known then. But, everything happens, I guess, when it needs to. But your book, for me, still, I feel like fills a hole, a gap that I still need, that I still work on every day. And I think it's such a good, and I'm bringing it up again, resource for those who are grieving. And I know that for those who are suffering and have trying times in our lives, we tend to become somewhat experts in subjects that we don't want to be experts in.
Exactly.
And I think that you definitely are an expert. I don't know if I want to say an expert in grief, maybe, but I think that you are an expert in helping people through grief. And when you just said that how you were able to not get down to that part of depression, I think that probably, and I'm not an expert at all, I'm only looking at it from the outside thinking, I think what probably makes you someone better to help others like me, like others who maybe did get that low, I think that is what makes you, and we haven't talked about this yet. You speak, you go to groups, you go and talk to people who are suffering with grief and, people who have lost. And because I definitely want you to bring up the story about how you went to if it's okay to talk about the
Sure.
correctional facility,
Sure.
but people in all aspects of different kinds of grief. And I think that's what makes you so great at it, is that I don't know, maybe you're just able to, do you think it's because you have do you think it's coping skills? What do you think it is?
I'm a big mouth. Okay. I talk a lot. Okay. And all of this gave me something to talk about.
Yeah.
But the thing we all have to understand is that grief is love. Without love, you wouldn't have grief. Without grief, you wouldn't have love. My son sent that to me, a little thing he found on the Facebook one night. I was doing the sorry bit for myself on Facebook, and he said something back that, so basically said that type of thing. So once you understand that you're grieving because you loved. See, I looked when I started the book, I searched for grief, such an ugly word. I mean, it just sounds ugly. So I thought there's got to be a better word. So I started looking. I looked at the dictionary thesaurus. I did the whole thing. There isn't. I found one thing. I found that in the Bible, they list 7 types of love. And one of them is called pragma. And pragma is continuing love. And I tell people when we talk, I say, please, couples, particularly couples, tell your mate you love them. Don't go through this thing of all of a sudden the two of you know you love each other, so you don't have to say it. Say it. I didn't say it enough. I wish I'd have said it more. Did say it, but didn't say it. But so pragma is this continuing love, this growing love. When I fell in love with her, I thought that was I thought this is it. This is love. Nah. We got married. I thought, no, this is it. This is really love. Nah. Had our child. I mean, look, I'm holding this little thing, I'm going, hey, this is really love. No, he grew up, he gets married, he has a child, a granddaughter, and I see her and I'm going to her wedding. I'm going, now this is it. No, it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
And what happens is, and you know this, you're married, your husband leaves his dirty clothes on the bathroom floor. So you're angry with him for that. So that interrupts your growing love for him. Okay. Am I right? Okay. So now Joyce is not here, so that we don't have that interruption between. So I can get up every morning and I can let my love for her grow all day. She's not going to make me mad by doing something, and I'm not going to make her mad by doing something,
Yeah.
So I can continue to love, and it does continue to grow. I firmly believe that. I think I probably love her more today than I did 5 years ago and 10 years ago. It just keeps growing. So I think when people understand, maybe they don't understand that's what's happening to them, but that's what's happening. And that's
Right.
what makes that's what affects your grief as it goes along. The more you love, the more that grief is there, but then the love is beautiful too. So you want that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And well, two or three things have happened along here that I never thought about. I thought a couple of the churches and some of my priest friends said, you need to come to our church and we want to buy your book and we want you to come talk to the people that are grieving. I said, sure, I do that. I talked to a Bible study group, the ladies study grief in the Bible, and then we just talked. I got a call from this lady and she said, I'm with the JCAP. I can't remember what it means, but anyway, her job is to work with the drug rehabilitation people in a jail. they're there. They're in a ward. They don't leave. They're there for 6 months or 8 months or whatever. And I said, first of all, I said, all right, did you know who you called? You called the wrong person. She said, no. She said, I understand now. I said, what? I said, if you really want me, yeah, I'd be happy to do it. So I went down and talked to her first, and then I went back. Now, I did. I get all my notes. This is what I'm going to talk to you guys. Got this nice paper, and I go there, and there are 12 of them, and they're sitting at a long table in their ward. They all live together in the same room, bunks, and they got their own restroom and showers and the whole bit, and game tables and all that stuff. So anyway, I walked in, and I set my notes down, and I looked at them. I thought, those notes are not what these guys want to hear. That's not what we're going to talk about. So I just started in much like we're talking now. And it was an hour. And at the end of an hour, well, about 45 minutes, I said, okay, guys, any questions? Because I thought I'll go there and these guys are going to sit and look at the ceiling. And you know, why am I sitting here listening to this idiot, you know? But they're all very attentive. I'm looking at them and they're all glued on what I'm saying. And I thought, am I this smart? I don't think so. But what I learned was that most of the people on drugs, drug addicts, are there because of grief. Something happened in their life that caused them. I mean, a loss of a job, a loss of a spouse, a loss of a friend, parents, whatever. And they asked real intelligent questions. At the end, all 12 of them came up and shook my hand. 8 of them put their arm around me and gave me a big hug. Mm. And so I walked out of the place and I walked out to my car in the parking lot. Now it's real hot. You know, it was a 90-degree day. So I start the car and turn the air conditioning, open the windows, and I'm sitting there. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking about this. Honestly, tears are coming down my face. I'm thinking these guys affected me more than I affected them. I look over and there's some lady getting in her car and she's looking at me. I went, hi, you know. But that one thing with them. In fact, I'm doing 2 or 3 more. In fact, what's happened is I did this. They all got a book. Now they're reading the book. I get to go back and they're supposed to ask me questions after reading the book. I have one other one that kind of surprised me. I mean, my book's about grief.
Yeah.
So I get this phone call. I answer the phone. This young man says, Mr. Rose, my name is so-and-so. I said, yes. He said, my mom said it was all right for me to call you. And I said, okay. I don't know what he's talking about. He said, I'm a junior in college and get ready to go back to school. And he said, I asked my mother, how do I know when I'm in love, Mom? And she handed me your book and said, read this. So he said, when I read it, after I read it, I said, I want to call him. And his mother said, yeah. She said, go ahead. Now, I think I know who the lady is. I'm really not sure. And how she got my book, I don't know. But so anyway, I talked to this young man and I thought, wait a minute. He read my book to find out what love is. Maybe I ought to go back and read this thing again. Where did I write all this, you know? So, you know, and that happened. I had another call, the same type of thing about love. So,
yeah.
So the book is about grief, love. So it all goes together. You know, without one, there isn't the other.
Yeah. Yeah. It really does. And I think that's why I wanted to also just make sure that we got across that, and you do talk about this very well, that it doesn't matter what kind of loss it is. Like it just doesn't. Right. And you're so great at that. You can definitely tell. And the first time we ever talked on the phone, I said, wow, I had to call. I was the same way. I had to call you because, and I don't call anyone. I just feel like I don't get on the phone with anyone. So listen, we're probably not the first to introduce you to the topic of CBD or CBD oil. If you're anything like us, it seems like every time you turn around, you're seeing a neon sign for CBD sold here at your local grocery store, in a window as you're driving by, or it flashes across your screen in an online ad.
Shannon's sister told us about the benefits she was having from a brand she was using, and then we started paying attention to that brand.
Spoiler alert, that brand is Danodan. Full transparency, we get about 2 to 3 CBD brands reaching out to us every week. And it wasn't until we started digging into the research that we learned that CBD isn't always CBD. They're just not all the same.
Danadan Hempworks makes organic hemp flower infusions. They're more than just CBD. Danadan's range of hemp products dissolve easily into any liquid and support your routine by helping you manage daily stress, promote healthy sleep, provide caffeine-free energy, and recover from activity-related stiffness and soreness.
They also have CBD hemp flower infusion specifically designed for pets, and Betty White uses it every day. She loves it. We put it on our food. And with Danadan, you'll enjoy all the benefits of legal hemp, not just 1 or 2 compounds isolated in a lab. Get 20% off right now with the code ADVENTURE at danodan.com. We'll link it for you in the show notes. That's 20% off right now with the code ADVENTURE at danodan.com.
Danadan, more than just CBD.
And I called you and I said, I just reading your story, and then I listened to you with interviewing with someone else, and I said, I don't ever feel like someone gets it. I just don't ever feel like someone gets it. And I just knew that you got it. You know, loss is loss. It doesn't matter if it's if someone loves their plant, like it's
right.
their, you know,
It's how it affects them. It's not,
yes,
it's not me. It's how it affects them.
Yeah. It's not weighted. It's not,
right.
You know, and one of the things I read, I don't know who said it, but it was someone, I don't know if a therapist said this is how you should respond, if a pastor said it or whatever, but they said, look, the next time that someone says to you, I don't understand. I don't understand why you're acting like that, or why, and that you should, and now I use it. If someone says, I don't understand why you're still, after all this time, still grieving, I now use it. And I say, well, you know, thank God you don't. Thank God you don't understand.
Right.
Because I think that's just the best way to, instead of arguing about it, instead of
right.
trying to explain it, thank God you don't.
Well, you know, and I think you saw in the book, the things that people said to me after the loss.
Yes.
Like, oh, it'll get better.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't get better. Again,
Yeah.
It just gets different. There was a quotation, I don't know who said it. Don't let anyone who hasn't been in your shoes tell you how to tie them. That pretty well explains grief. When at the funeral home, okay, so you go through the visitation. We had 450 some people. And I go through it too. And you've probably been there. You get in the line at the funeral home and you go,
yeah,
what am I going to say when I get up there? You know?
Yeah.
You know, it will get better. Don't say that. Don't say it'll pass with time, because it's not going to.
Right.
One of the worst ones is, well, at least he or she's not in pain anymore. Folks, don't say that to me, because I sat there with her and I you know, yeah, you're right. Because I held her hand for 3 weeks. She was in hospice for 3 weeks. I said, yeah, but don't say that to me.
Yeah.
Don't say I understand how you feel, because you don't.
You don't. It's
And
the
don't
at
say-
least. The at least. I don't like the at least. Don't say at least followed by anything.
That's right.
And followed by anything.
You had her for 59 years. Well, and the worst one, one of the absolute worst ones is, well, God needed her up there more than you needed her down here. That's, you know, that's the worst thing to say.
Yeah.
Is, please don't ask me, how are you doing?
Yeah.
I mean, so many people said that. I wanted to say, well, how the hell do you think I spent? My wife's over here in this casket. I'm confused. I'm lonely. I don't know. But what do you say? Oh, I'm okay.
I know.
So, you know, I thought about that a lot, because like I say, I stand in the line now. I don't know what to say. So I started thinking, well, what should you say?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can say, nothing I can say will make it any easier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that pretty much it. I'm here for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm praying for you.
Mm-hmm.
And your family. I have a little problem with saying I'm praying for you, though. Well, I'm on Facebook. I am messing around on Facebook a lot, and everybody on there says, when something goes, somebody says something's wrong, then they say I'm praying for you, and you get all little folded hands, and you get a whole line of them, and you see 60 people do that for somebody.
Yeah.
Oh, no. How many of those people really
I know.
pray for you?
Yeah.
They say it, but do they really do it?
Right.
Now, if I say it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't say it. I'm not going to.
It also now just seems like a reaction.
Yeah.
It just seems like a reactional
It's
thing
something you're supposed to say. You know?
Yeah.
I think one of the best things maybe is just not say anything, just give them a hug.
Yeah.
A hug says it all. I love you and I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Oh, and I remember, I don't remember a lot of what people said to me, but I remember how people made me feel. I remember this person, and they made me feel so good.
Yeah.
Not what they said, just being there, just putting their arm around me, just, giving me that little hug. So those are the things that, that I think if everybody kind of take that little inventory when you're going to the funeral home and say, these are the things I don't want to say, and just walk up and give the person a hug. They know when you give them that hug, that says I'm here for you. I love you. So.
I'll tell you, my mother-in-law passed away. My father-in-law was telling my husband, and I tell people this now, when they're like, oh, wonder what I can do. It seems like everybody's doing something. I say, well, let me tell you something that my father-in-law said. When my mother-in-law passed away, that everyone was around right after. Like everyone was around. They were supportive. And then a week or two after, there was no one. And it was quiet and it was lonely. And so I think about that.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. And so now I think, well, when someone experiences loss, and not that I want to be overbearing, but now I think, well, if you're going to bring food or you're going to worry if someone is alone and they're eating or whatever, maybe don't do it right after. Maybe let's check and bring on them food a few weeks after, so I think about that now, that why do we always react right after? Because everyone is doing that. And then they have food that goes bad and they have, all the things that are extra, and then they're lonely,
One of the things we mentioned earlier about people 25, 30 years, you talk to somebody that's in that 30 years, lost her husband. Lost her husband 30 years ago. It is the same feeling as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So she has the same need, okay, that she had 30 years ago.
Right.
And if her friends understand that, that she still had that same need, because some of them do too, you share that. That's the thing, that it doesn't, so she lost her husband. So that was 30 years ago. What the heck, that's 30 years. No, not to her. It's not 30 to you. It's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But 30 years ago, you went to the funeral home. You went to the funeral, but she'd been carrying that in her heart for 30 years, and it's going to be there until she joins him.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there. So again, that's what people need to understand. If they haven't gone through it again, understand unless you've been there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you did the cooking show with Joyce, and now you do some cooking with your granddaughter.
Right. And my son.
Yeah. And your son. That's right. The day that I talked to you, you were doing a dinner party that night. So It sounds like you still do a lot of cooking. So do you find that brings you joy, or is it painful, or what is that experience like for you?
It's not, it brings me joy. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Is it painful? No, it's not painful. But does it bring on some grief things? Yes. But they're also love things. Example. Okay. My wife and I both cook. If you can see our kitchen, it's a counter, and you can sit on this side and the kitchen's over on this side. And we took turns cooking. So if it would be my turn to cook, I'd be over there and she'd be sitting at the counter with a glass of wine, and I'd have a glass of wine, and we talk. That was our time, that 5:30 to 7 o'clock, or 6 to 7:30, or whatever it was, that hour, 2 hours when we cooked and ate and cleaned the dishes. So when I do that now myself, like last night, I made myself, I just telling my son when he came, we share recipes. I just tell my son, I did a chicken breast with a balsamic honey glaze on it that I grilled, and a potato and a salad. So as I'm doing that and have my glass of wine, then I get a little bit, but I have good memories too. I tell the one in the book about the string and the turkey.
Yeah.
Our family, our holidays were always at our house. We had the bigger place, and my parents were alive, and her parents, and Brock, and so everybody would come. So we continued that. So the Thanksgiving after she passed away, the kids said, "Hey, Dad, you do the turkey. We're going to bring everything else, but we'll come to your house." So I'm standing in that kitchen on Thanksgiving Eve, having my glass of wine, and I got the bird, and I'm doing all the stuff, and I'm stuffing it with the fruit and the herbs and everything I put in it. And I take the string and I tie the legs, and I need a finger so I can tie the knot. And she's not there because she always did it. And I would always say, okay, she put the finger down, and then she'd say to me, who helped you tie your Boy Scout knots? And it was always a big joke, and we'd laugh. Back one year, I think I said, cute little blonde, and I think I got a dish rag to the side of the bed. I'm not good. But all of a sudden, I'm doing that and didn't even think about us. The minute I pulled that string, tears started to come down. And then I started to laugh. If you'd have walked in my kitchen, you'd have gotten the bag and take me to the funny farm. This guy's totally lost. He's got a dead turkey in front of him with a string, and he's laughing and crying. What's this all about? So those are the kind of things that I find out from other people that happen. The stupid little things. But to that person, that's really,
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things. See, that's when I'm gonna talk about balloon in a box. Okay.
I know. I was going to ask you. Okay, could you explain to us about balloon in a box?
Somebody told me a long, long time ago, this grief and death and everything was like a ball in a box. Okay. When it first happens, that ball touches all 6 sides. And when it touches all 6 sides, that's tough because one side's confusion, one side's loneliness, one side's this, one side. And so you're going through all those emotions at the same time. And you're going to hear in the background, outside, they're weeding my yard. So
that's life.
So I said, no, you know what? It's more like a balloon in a box. Because when you got a balloon on a string, you want to move it over here, but it doesn't necessarily go with you. So what you have to learn to do is that balloon's in that box, and you have to learn to control it, to keep it from hitting more than one side at a time. If it hits this side over here and it's a little confusion, you can handle it. It's over here, it's a little loneliness, you can handle it. Can't go down and hit the corner and have all those happen to you at the same time. You can't handle it. That's what. So that's the balloon in the box. Somebody said to me, well, that would be real easy. Why don't you just let the balloon go or pop the balloon? I said, no. That's where all your memories are out in that balloon. I don't want to lose those.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose all those memories. Yeah, you'd be right. It'd be easy. Balloon goes and all goes and you don't have any problem. So, you lean to, and I've learned, it still happens. The wind blows the wrong direction a little bit. Sometimes it touches 1 or 2 sides at the same time. And but if it only touches one, I can handle it. And I tell people, if you could learn to handle that one thing, if you can learn to handle the anger once in a while, and you can learn to handle this, and then you're all right. You just don't let it all happen to you at once. That's what makes it bad. Yeah. So that's the balloon in a box. So
when I read that, I remember when I was really suffering, thinking, and there's a movie about it. I think it's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where they erase the memories from the person's mind, and because so they're not suffering. And I remember at that time thinking, oh, I just wish I could do that. I just wish I could do it because I don't want to suffer anymore. And then I and I blogged about this during that time. And then I remember during the blog going, no, I don't, because I wouldn't remember any of those wonderful things and those wonderful memories I would have. And when I read about the balloon, the story you just told, I was like, that's exactly it, because you don't want to lose those memories. You know?
Yeah, it's a weird journey. It's a strange journey.
It is.
It's an interesting journey. And my wife always, you probably said this, but my wife's favorite saying was, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Deal with it. If I had a problem and I'm complaining about it, she'd just look me in the eyes and say, Tom, it is what it is. Put on your big boy pants and deal with it. How many times she told a girlfriend over the phone, put on your big girl panties and deal with it. So that's what I finally decided, wait a minute, listen to what Joyce is saying. It is what it is, Tom. Not going to change. So deal with it. So that's what I had to learn, to grab that string and maybe even tie it around my finger so it doesn't, get the where I want it to go. See, the other thing is that, and I said at the beginning, is God's there. When it first happened, I was mad at God, and I didn't want to think about it that way. I didn't want to think about God. But, a little while later, a few months later, I thought, God, I do need you. I need somebody. I need my help. So I'm on a grief committee at the church, and there's a whole bunch of prayers you always give people. And we've been giving them to these people. So I thought, where are those? So I get them out, and I read them, and I went, okay. They're really nice, flowery, poetic things. But do they really say what I wanted to say, what I want to say?
Right.
Do you mind if I read my prayer?
No, I would love that.
So I thought, I've got to write a prayer. Now, I didn't pay attention in English class like I should have. And, that's so I'm not really a writer. These are my words. You notice in there, I didn't use any words that I couldn't spell. If I can't spell it, I didn't use it. But so this is my prayer. My prayer is called, Give Me Strength. I said, hey, God, you took my loved one, and I don't understand why. She was a very good person, always ready to help those in need. She was a very devout Catholic, much better than I. Why didn't you take me and leave her here to continue the good? Oh, wait a minute. I think I understand. You want me to take over and be a good person like her? Not sure I can do it without her strength. You're saying, it is what it is, deal with it. Okay, but please help me. God, give me the strength. Amen. So that's my prayer, I say. So I think, and I talked to some other people. I've had people tell me after they've read the book and we talked, hey, I wrote a prayer. I like to hear it. Tell me your prayer. And they did, and they're the same kind of thing. They say what's really here, not what somebody else wrote, where somebody wrote, I bring the pain of my loneliness, sharp edges of sadness. No, that's not my language. And that's not most people's language. Most people pretty straightforward. Maybe
say it the way that
the way that you really feel it. Say it that way. And actually, I go to mass on Saturday night, and I take this book with me, and I read that prayer. Actually, I read the other ones too, but I read that.
Yeah,
So that helped. That helped me with the string and the balloon, and my little prayer helped me to do it because you women, okay, I'm gonna play you women. She died on a Monday, the Thursday night before she died. My granddaughter's got a great voice. She sings. She was in all kinds of theater stuff and everything. And one thing Joyce had said to me one night was, "Oh, I'm not going to get to hear Amanda sing again." Well, I would stay overnight at the hospital, and the kids would come and relieve me at 4:00, so I could go home, shower, get something to eat, and come back. So this Thursday night, I went back, and they left, and she took my hand. She was very lucid this night. She said, Amanda gave me a concert. She said, in fact, she gave a concert for the whole wing down here that she had, all the people standing outside the door. And then I don't know how many songs she sang, whatever. So at 8:00 or 8:30, they turn the lights down in the hospital, and everything gets quiet. She held my hand. We talked about a lot of things. She told me there was a green bag in the closet, and that's what was supposed to go at the funeral home. She didn't want videos and all the pictures of 60 years hanging on the wall, just that. What was in there was copies of our cookbook and a couple of the newspaper articles about us doing that together. Anyway, she said, I love you. I'll see you in church. I said, just like a woman has to, she could have just stopped with I love you. She had to give me something to do, right? That's the way you women are. You just can't leave it alone. You got to give the guy something to do, Or it's not a complete sentence unless you add at the end, you need to do this.
I'll see you at church.
Okay.
Well, I have a question, and I didn't see this in the book, and I've been wondering this. I know that Dr. Lewis passed away.
Yes.
Did he know that your book got published? Like that you finished it, or that you finished it?
He knew that I had finished it, basically, but he didn't know that it had been printed. And he had seen.
He was the one that encouraged you to do it.
He had seen a digital copy of it when I was proofing it. He read. So he got to read it. Maybe not in its final form, but he got to read it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When I saw at the end that he passed away, I was like, "Oh no!" Like, did he know? Okay, I was.
About 2 weeks in March, a couple weeks before his birthday. So. Anyhow,
On a fun note is go through our fast 5 questions, which is just a little bit of light stuff to get to know you a little bit.
Okay.
It's kind of a this or that. So number 1 is, do you prefer sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Okay. Number 2, coffee or wine?
Oh, wine. That's a trick question now.
Okay. Number 3, dine al fresco or indoors?
Ooh, al fresco.
I I figured because that time I was talking to you on the phone, you were getting your deck ready and all that. And I was like, is he going to be dining outside tonight or
Yeah,
what's
we
the
did.
deal?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Okay. Number 4, cooking for guests in your home or dining in a restaurant with friends.
Oh, cooking with guests at home.
Yeah, I figure.
A lot more.
Okay. And number 5, my husband, Jerry, thinks that this is the way to get to know someone, like the way. Ketchup or mustard?
Mustard.
Yeah. And I always say,
It's
well,
a
then what
sin.
does that mean?
It's a sin to put ketchup on a hot dog. It's mustard on a hot dog.
I know. I know. I agree. And the question that we ask everyone, the most important question is, what does a life well lived mean to you?
Ooh. Having, when you pass away, everybody's saying he was always a kind person. He was kind to me. He was kind to people. I think that's the most important. If we're all that way, then that's fine. Don't have to give them money. Don't have to just be kind. Just say a kind word, particularly when somebody needs a kind word.
Yeah. Well, you said that the book would be a success if you help just one person coping with their grief. And I know that you have. I know that this has helped me. I'm one for sure. Thank you. It's a success.
Thank you. Thank you for making my book a success.
Oh, yeah. And I appreciate you being here. And I would love it if you could tell our audience how they can purchase Balloon in a Box if they desire to do that.
Okay. Just go to www.thomaslrose.com. Thomas, ThomasLROSC.com.
Okay. And we're going to put that in the show notes so that they can have access to that.
I also put my phone number there that you have if you want. They can call me too. So
yeah, which I think is amazing because you have that on your website. And I think
if they like to talk, call me and talk. We'll talk like this.
I thank you so much for being here. This was so good for my heart. I appreciate your time. It was just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shannon. Have a good day.
Well, I mean, Jerry, you weren't here for the episode, but you have now watched it, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, when Jer is not able to be here for an episode, we may have mentioned this on a few, but he comes back and he watches the audio of it. He gets the full take so that he can kind of, get the full scope and then be able to comment on it. We also liked for him to sort of take part that way. And, you did have some takeaways during it, but now you can sort of comment on some of your takeaways.
Oh yeah, it was just I would think I was taken in right away with Tom. He just very warm person, and it was a little bit different than a lot of our typical episodes, and gosh, really, really tug at your heartstrings. A lot of the things he said,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I think I might have told you when I called you when the episode was over, we were done recording, and I was telling you, I think I cried about 3 or 4 times during the episode. Good crying,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just such a warm episode and resonated in so many ways, of course, with me. And I know I said how this book is such a great resource, but if you're someone who, I think almost everyone has gone through grief and of some way, if you know that feeling, especially what Tom was talking about, everyone feels it different ways, but the way he was talking about, the way he described was, being kicked in the chest. And me, I what I hear from a lot of people is that, when you're experiencing grief, the world goes on and you just don't understand how it continues to go on. And, everyone experiences it their own way, but I think that one thing that resonates is that everyone is sort of looking for help. They're looking for an answer. They're looking for a resource. And one of the things that I struggled with, especially during my grief journey, and still do, is a really good resource that's not clinical and taking it from someone who understands. And this fills that hole for me. It's just such a great resource.
Well, yeah, and I was really, as much as I thought, oh, could be great for anybody, I could see specifically where it was really good for you, and that made me feel good.
Oh
yeah,
that's sweet.
Uh-huh.
I know I told you on the phone that he reminds me of your dad a little.
Yeah, and I noticed that actually right away. In character, and also in kind of his look. I thought, if you take away the beard and glasses, that looks a little like my dad.
Yeah. I didn't really get into details about this during the show so much, but when I read just a snippet of his story and that he had written this book and went to his website, and then I clicked on another interview he had done with someone, and just, I can't even explain it. I don't pick up the phone and call anyone other than my mom and, a little bit of family, but I don't pick up the phone and call anybody else. And I saw his phone number was on his website. And that's what we talk about in the episode, how he welcomes calls. No one does that, by the way. And I called him, and I couldn't believe I called him, and he answered. And I just told him, Tom, I just read the snippet about what you've written. And I, at that point, hadn't even read the book. And I just felt like he got it. He just got it. And I've blogged about this. I've talked about this in podcasts, about mental health, about pet loss, about grief, that the biggest issue for me was people not getting it. And Tom gets it. And I think that's why he is such a great support for other people. I think that's why he is a great speaker about grief. And that's why people are drawn to him and know that he understands their plight and understands that he's genuine, and then I read the book, and then I was like, oh my gosh, this is such a great book. I wish I would have had it a few years ago, but I am glad that I have it now.
Well, yeah, and I think he's the voice you've maybe been looking for about five years now.
Yeah.
And yeah, genuine and down to earth. I mean, you're immediately comfortable with this guy, and he's such a really neat, sort of down to earth, small town Indiana boy that's lived in his same area his whole life. It's like he jumped right out of a John Mellencamp song, He's
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was really lovely. And the night I called him, or he was actually preparing to cook dinner for some friends to come over, and oh gosh, it was just lovely. And he was having eggplant, which we love grilled eggplant because you grill it so right. well. And it was just lovely.
Everything clicked.
It just clicked. We had such great synergy.
Everything lined up.
It did. It did. So anyway, I also wanted to point out that there's this quote at the end of his book that says, look, you didn't ask for my opinion, but I'm old, so I'm giving it anyway. And it's Sophia from the Golden Girls.
Yeah.
Estelle Getty. And we're
Once again, it's all lining up.
Right? We're big Golden Girls fans, of course. And so when I read that at the end of the book, and he's just kind of saying, look, nobody asked for my opinion. I'm just giving it, and hopefully it helps. And I did mean it at the end when I said, he did say that if it was a success, if it helped one person, and it did help me, and I know it helped other people. It has helped other people. So if this episode resonated with you, or if you know of someone who would benefit from having a resource like Tom's book, Balloon in a Box, please share this episode or click the link in the show notes where you can find his book. I know that there are a lot of book groups and support groups who may think, oh my gosh, this would be a great book for me to find our grief support group. And yes, you should definitely get it for your grief support group. I think anyone that you think struggling and you think, oh, I wonder if this would be beneficial for them. Absolutely. We talked about things that you should say and shouldn't say for someone who is grieving. Well, guess what? Why don't you just give them this book? That way you don't even have to worry about the right things to say. You can just give them this book, because I promise you it's the right thing to do. And it's really important for anyone who is grieving to know about resources like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, well put.
As always, you can find us at arneradventures.com, on Instagram at arneradventures, also linked in the show notes.
So until next time, enjoy the journey that you're on. We're wishing you lots of adventures.
Bye.